So what they decided to do is have the tourists gather upstairs. They would talk to a guide who would tell them about the place. The guide then would venture down the stairs on their own with an iPhone strapped to their forehead and would do a sort of live streaming tour, which would be relayed on a screen upstairs.
It's 6:26. The Italians have found a way for tourists to see fragile underground frescoes in Rome without damaging them. Tour guides are using iPhones strapped to their foreheads to offer virtual tours. Tom Kington is the Times reporter in Rome and has been to see what it's all about. Morning, Tom.
Good morning, hello.
Is Nessun Dorma a big deal in Italy? Do you think they'd expect to see and hear Nessun Dorma in a performance of Turandot?
I didn't listen to the previous section, so
I'm just baffling you.
Don't worry.
Let's move on, Tom.
I'm here to talk about archaeology.
Okay, let's talk about archaeology. So how does this work? Because I've got a central complaint about this, but maybe you can convince me otherwise. You go to the site, you don't go down in to see these frescoes. A guide does with an iPhone strapped to their head.
That's right, yes. So we're talking about the House of the Griffins, which is a 2,000-year-old apartment buried underneath the Palatine Hill in Rome. You can't get in there, or at least groups of tourists can't get in there because the space is very narrow. The steps to get down there are very narrow. I don't think by law you could take tourists down there. They're afraid that bunches of tourists would scrape their elbows against the frescoes, and even their breath would make the frescoes fall off due to the condensation. So what they decided to do is have the tourists gather upstairs. They would talk to a guide who would tell them about the place. The guide then would venture down the stairs on their own with an iPhone strapped to their forehead and would do a sort of live streaming tour, which would be relayed on a screen upstairs. Then, after the tour, after the visit by the guide would come back up the stairs and talk more and take questions in person.
So that you do get something personal out of this, but there is an obvious other way of doing this, which is for the guide to do that, but people to stay at home, not trouble to visit because they can't see it in person anyway, and do all of this remotely.
That was my first question yesterday. I said, look, why can't I just watch this on YouTube whenever I want in my pajamas at home? And what they said is they're trying to make it a little bit more personal and a bit more kind of live and direct, so that you're actually right there. You're in the place itself, albeit 5 meters above it. And so already you're kind of feeling the experience. Plus, you get to meet the guide. The guide will tailor the tour according to the group who showed up that day. You get to interact with the guide afterwards. So what they're trying to do is sort of make it almost happen, but not quite, but get you as close as possible. That's their logic anyway.
I just wonder, as I read your piece, which was so interesting this morning, Tom, I was thinking, in 30 years' time, is this the dystopian future of tourism, where too many people tramping about the place, gradually access is restricted, and the future of tourism is not going to the pyramids or whatever; it is watching a video of it.
I think you need to kind of look at this in perspective. I mean, something like the Sistine Chapel, you can get a small army in there, so I wouldn't worry too much about having to stand in the car park instead. However, the world is full of places like this. In fact, they were talking yesterday about Etruscan tombs. If you go to places like Tarquinia in Italy, which have these incredible underground Etruscan tombs, but you can't get into them unless you've got a hard hat and you're fully qualified and you've got permission. So somewhere like that would be useful too. And there are other sites on the Palatine Hill, apparently they were saying, where they could use this technique. But I think that for now, the main places like the Colosseum, I think they're going to be letting you in for a long time.
All right, that's interesting, Tom. Great to speak to you, my friend. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.
That's Tom Kington, the Times reporter in Rome. It's interesting because I went to a place called the Hypogeum, Kate, in Malta, which is a Stone Age burial site, and you go underground. And Emma, our producer, her family's from Malta. So when she was a kid, you could just go down. It's amazing. You go down, and it's these strange burial sites from 5,000 years ago. It's very creepy and beautiful, and you imagine what it must have been like when they were burying the dead in the darkness by carving out these stone chambers. But when Emma was a child, you could just go down there, clamber all over it, look everything close together. By the time we get there 20 years later, only 6 people can go at any one time. It's completely cordoned off. You can only go down with a guide. I just wonder, I know Tom's a bit more sanguine about it. Everything's crumbling. We've got tourism has gone from being a thing the rich people did 200 years ago to being the most common practice for everyone. I just wonder whether they're going to start drawing lines around some of these sites and stop people going there and damaging them further.
Well, I think they probably should in some cases.
Because otherwise, what you're
there won't be
preserving.
anything left.
But I wonder if the golden age for seeing things might be slipping away from us, seeing them in person.